The alien queen was shocked when the human she married revealed his true strength, Sol HFY. The stars above the capital world of Areles burned with soft blue light. The planet was old, powerful, and feared across many systems. For centuries, its rulers had controlled trade routes, armies, and laws that shaped half the known galaxy. At the center of this power stood Queen Lyra, the youngest ruler in the Empire's history and one of the strongest. She stood alone on a high balcony of the royal palace. Her silver eyes watched the traffic of ships moving like slow insects across the sky. Her posture was straight, her expression calm, but her thoughts were heavy. Tomorrow she would marry a human. The decision had not come from love, it came from danger. Earth, the home of humans, was a small world compared to the great empires of space. Its fleets were few, its reach short. Yet again and again, reports showed that human forces survived battles they should have lost. Their technology looked simple, but it worked in strange ways. Their soldiers fought with discipline that confused alien commanders. They did not expand, they did not threaten, they simply watched. When border conflicts grew worse, Queen Lyra's advisors suggested a bond with Earth, a marriage, a symbol of trust, a promise of peace. The human they sent was named Aaron. He arrived without ceremony, no long fleet, no loud display, just one slim ship that passed every security scan with ease. When Aaron stepped onto the landing platform, many nobles watched from above. He looked ordinary, medium height, dark hair, simple clothing, no armor, no visible weapons. Some nobles laughed quietly. "That is the human," one whispered. "That is what Earth offers us." Queen Lyra watched from her throne room window. She felt no anger, only confusion. She had expected someone sharper, louder, or proud. Aaron bowed with respect, his eyes lowered. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. "I am honored to be here, no threat, no pride." That alone made her uneasy. The wedding preparations filled the palace with noise and movement. Servants from many worlds rushed through long halls. Flags of Areles and Earth were placed side by side. Some aliens refused to touch the human symbols. Others argued in private rooms, saying this marriage would weaken the empire. Aaron did not react to any of it. He walked through the palace slowly, learning names, thanking servants, asking simple questions. He ate what was offered. He followed customs without complaint. When corrected, he nodded and adjusted. Queen Lyra observed him often, though she pretended not to. She had learned to read lies, fear, and ambition in others. Aaron showed none of these. It felt wrong. On the night before the wedding, a council meeting was held. The room was large and cold, filled with stone pillars and glowing panels. Generals and ministers spoke openly. "The human brings no strength," said General Raxon, his voice sharp. "This bond is a mistake." "He is a symbol, not a warrior," replied another. Queen Lyra listened without speaking. At the edge of the room, Aaron stood quietly. He was not invited to speak, but he attended as a sign of unity. When the meeting ended, Queen Lyra finally turned to him. "Do you understand why many here doubt you?" she asked. "Yes," Aaron replied. "And you feel no anger?" "No." Why? Aaron thought for a moment. "Because fear often speaks louder than truth." That answer stayed with her. The wedding took place under a crystal dome that opened to the stars. Thousands watched across the empire. The vows were spoken in neutral language, binding law and promise. When it ended, applause echoed through the hall, but it felt thin. That night, Aaron was given private quarters far from the queen's chambers. Tradition demanded distance at first. As he walked through empty halls, guards followed him closely. Their hands stayed near their weapons. In the shadows above, hidden eyes watched. Deep within the palace, Lord Verk stood before a dark screen. His face was tight with anger. He was old, powerful, and dangerous. He had hoped to rule after Queen Lyra. "This marriage crushed those dreams. A human in our palace," he said. "This insult will not stand." A figure beside him bowed. "The plan is ready," Good Verk said. If the queen survives the shame, she will not survive the night after. The palace lights dimmed as the cycle changed. Most believed the night would pass quietly. It did not. Near Aaron's quarters, a security door failed without warning. No alarm sounded. Two figures slipped through, their movements silent. They carried blades designed to cut through alien armor. They had been told the human would be easy. Inside, Aaron stood by the window, looking at the stars. He sensed the change before the door opened. Not through sound, but through something deeper. His posture shifted slightly. When the attackers entered, they froze. Their bodies locked in place, eyes wide, breath trapped in their chests. Aaron turned slowly. He did not touch them. He did not raise his hands. He simply looked at them. "Leave," he said softly. The blades fell to the floor. The attackers collapsed, unconscious but alive. Moments later, guards rushed in, confused by the scene. Aaron stood calmly in the center of the room. "They fainted," he said. "Please ensure they are not harmed." The guards stared at him. There were no signs of struggle, no marks, no weapons in his hands. Word of the incident spread quickly, but it was changed as it moved. By morning, it was said the attackers had slipped and knocked themselves out. Many laughed at the story. Others felt uneasy. Queen Lyra heard the truth from her chief guard. She summoned Aaron at once. "Tell me exactly what happened," she said. "I was attacked," Aaron replied. "I defended myself without harm." How Aaron met her eyes for the first time fully. There was something deep there, calm and heavy, like a quiet ocean. "I cannot explain yet," he said. "Not until the danger is clear." She studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well," she said. "But know this. I do not like secrets in my palace, as you should not," Aaron replied. Later that day, a message arrived from Earth. It was encoded and marked with high priority. Queen Lyra was not allowed to read it. It was meant only for Aaron. He stood alone as the message played. Images moved across the air. Data flowed fast. The final words were simple. "The situation is worse than expected. Proceed as planned. Do not reveal full capacity unless necessary." Aaron closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he straightened. Outside, the empire went on as normal. Markets opened. Ships departed. Nobles argued. None of them knew that a storm had already entered the heart of their power. And none of them knew that the quiet human they mocked was standing between them and something far worse than war. The morning sun of Areles rose over the royal palace with a pale orange glow. From her balcony, Queen Lyra could see the city stretching into the horizon, towers of white stone and silver metal sparkling. Despite the beauty, the air felt heavy with tension. Her marriage to Aaron the human was meant to symbolize peace, but the palace whispered of fear and doubt. Aaron moved through the halls of the palace with quiet confidence. He carried no weapons, yet no one dared approach him carelessly. Servants and guards alike noticed that things seemed to shift around him without explanation. A spilled tray would stop falling midair. A tumbling vase would halt before hitting the floor, and a guard's near misstep would be corrected by nothing more than his gaze. He did not brag, he did not announce his actions, yet the effect was undeniable. Queen Lyra observed all of it with a growing unease. She had never met anyone who moved the world so subtly. The palace staff tried to integrate him into daily life. He learned alien customs, he studied their language, and he even joined strategy discussions. Yet, even when he spoke, his words carried a weight that unsettled veteran generals. "Patience," he said once during a debate over a border dispute, "gives more strength than the sharpest blade." They laughed at first, but later, many quietly reconsidered their words. Meanwhile, Lord Verk, the jealous noble, worked in secret. He could not accept a human as Queen's partner, and he believed that one day the empire would crumble under her decision. In hidden chambers, he plotted with allies. The palace had already caught whispers of their plans, messages intercepted, servants turned away. But Verk was careful. His moves were precise, like a predator circling its prey. Strange events began occurring around the palace. Doors that were locked opened on their own, alarms that should have sounded remained silent, and surveillance drones reported mysterious energy spikes. At first, the incidents were dismissed as glitches, minor malfunctions. But Queen Lyra felt differently. She noticed that these anomalies always seemed to occur when Aaron was nearby. Guards were unsettled, whispering that he must possess some secret power. Queen Lyra herself hesitated to speak aloud, unsure if she wanted the truth. One evening, during a royal feast, the palace filled with nobles from every corner of the empire. Verk had arranged for assassins to strike under the cover of celebration. They were trained, skilled, and invisible to most eyes. But Aaron moved among the guests as if the danger did not exist. He offered a hand to a young ambassador who had dropped his cup. He smiled at a frightened servant, and he laughed softly at a minor accident at a banquet table. Every action was small, gentle, yet there was a precision to them that felt unnatural. The assassin struck. At first, no one realized the attack had begun. A flash of light, a shadow crossing the ceiling, and then the chaos would have erupted, except it did not. Objects stopped in midair and the attackers froze. Not one guest was harmed. Not a single guard fired a shot. All around, the palace remained serene, almost as if the event had never happened. Queen Lyra's eyes widened when she saw Aaron standing in the center of the room, calm, untouched, his eyes scanning every corner. The attackers lay unconscious but alive. He made no effort to conceal what had happened. He merely guided the palace guards to ensure that no harm came to anyone and then returned to his seat as if it were nothing. "Explain this," she demanded later in her private chambers. Aaron shook his head slightly. "I cannot, not fully. Some truths are dangerous if revealed too soon." "Dangerous," she echoed. "Are you saying you are not what you appear to be?" "I am human," he said softly, "but my kind has learned things the galaxy has not seen. Some of those things are better kept secret until needed." The queen stared at him, trying to measure his meaning. She had always considered humans fragile, unpredictable, and weak. Aaron shattered that belief in moments. Yet, even with the revelation, he offered no threat. He simply existed, calm and contained, a quiet storm. The next days passed with unusual tension. Verk accelerated his plans, believing that if he acted quickly, he could strike the empire while the queen's human husband remained a mystery. Spies were sent, fleets were maneuvered, and secret alliances whispered into the night. Every noble seemed to feel that change was coming, though none understood its full measure. Aaron remained at the center of it all, observing, learning, and subtly influencing events. He helped young nobles navigate etiquette, advised military officers in ways that seemed obvious yet brilliant, and often intervened in disputes that could have escalated into violence. Every small action reassured some and unsettled others. The palace began to hum with an unfamiliar energy, a blend of fear, admiration, and uncertainty. One evening, as Queen Lyra walked through the gardens with Aaron, she finally spoke her question aloud. "Why do you stay so calm? You see threats, danger, and plots. Yet you do not panic. You do not strike unless needed." Aaron looked at the stars, reflecting the colors of the planet's twin moons. "Because control matters more than force," he said. "Hasty power can destroy what it seeks to protect. Patience often wins what anger cannot." Queen Lyra considered his words. They were simple, yet they carried weight. She had faced rebellion, assassination attempts, and betrayal before, but none of it had prepared her for the quiet, unshakable strength of this human beside her. That night an urgent message arrived from Earth. It came encrypted, sealed with layers of protection. The palace had no authority to open it. Aaron alone read it. He listened silently, his expression unchanged. When the transmission ended, he looked at the queen. "The situation is growing," he said quietly. "Verk is more dangerous than we imagined. He will act soon." "And the humans?" she asked. Earth waits, but we must handle this here first. I will not reveal everything until necessary." Her mind raced. What kind of human could remain calm, precise, and unshaken in the heart of an alien palace filled with jealousy, power, and violence? What secrets were hidden behind those simple eyes, so ordinary in appearance yet extraordinary in presence? The palace slept uneasily. Guards doubled their patrols. Security systems were checked again and again, but the quiet threat remained. Queen Lyra knew that a storm was coming, one that might shake the foundations of her empire, and at its center stood a human who refused to be ordinary. As she looked at him, sitting silently in the glow of the twin moons, she realized that nothing about this marriage would be simple. The human beside her had already changed everything without a single display of force. And she knew deep down that the true test had not yet begun. The night ended with silence, but the tension lingered. Somewhere in the palace, plans were being set in motion. Verk had moved his pieces. The Empire was unaware of the danger, but Aaron had seen it all. And for the first time, Queen Lyra felt the weight of a truth that no noble, no general, and no spy could yet comprehend. A human they had all thought weak, but in reality he was something far more dangerous and far more powerful than any of them had imagined. The palace of Areles buzzed with uneasy energy as dawn broke. Queen Lyra walked through the halls, her silver eyes scanning the polished floors and towering pillars. Though outwardly calm, her mind raced. Every day brought new signs of unease. Strange disturbances in the palace systems, whispered plots among the nobles, and mysterious movements in the shadows. And always, Aaron moved quietly at the center of it all, observing, learning, and influencing without effort. It had been weeks since the first assassination attempt. Word of that night had spread quietly, distorted by palace gossip. Some said it had been an accident. Others claimed the human had simply been lucky. But Queen Lyra knew better. She had seen the truth. Aaron had stopped the attackers without lifting a weapon, without raising his voice. That simple act had shaken the palace to its core. Now, Verk's plans were becoming clearer. The ambitious noble was gathering loyalists, training secret forces, and quietly moving weapons and supplies through hidden channels. His goal was obvious. He would overthrow the queen and destroy the human she had married. If he succeeded, the empire could plunge into chaos. Aaron, as usual, noticed everything. When a guard stumbled near a corridor where Verk's spies had planted surveillance devices, Aaron's presence alone caused the small mechanical traps to fail. No one noticed except him. He walked past silently, adjusting a misaligned console as if correcting a minor error, yet in reality, he had nullified a critical piece of Verk's scheme. Queen Lyra followed him at a distance, fascinated and fearful. "Do you see everything?" she asked one evening, her voice soft in the palace library. "Almost," he replied, arranging a set of ancient scrolls. "But observation alone is not enough. One must understand timing, patterns, and intentions. Then action becomes unnecessary until the right moment." The queen frowned. "And if that moment comes too late, then one must adapt," he said. His calm tone carried no arrogance, yet his words carried weight. Queen Lyra felt a chill. This was not just wisdom. This was the kind of thinking that changed outcomes, that made the impossible simple. Days passed, and the signs of Verk's plotting grew stronger. A group of palace soldiers reported missing weapons. A secret communication network was intercepted, revealing coded messages intended to recruit more followers. Yet every time something went wrong, Aaron was nearby, invisible yet decisive, subtly steering events to prevent disaster. The palace was safer because of him, though no one could explain how. The tension reached its peak during the annual Festival of Moons. The entire empire would gather, and Verk saw an opportunity. His plan was bold. Strike during the ceremony when the queen was surrounded by nobles, diplomats, and foreign dignitaries. Success would embarrass the human and eliminate any threat to his claim. Failure, however, would leave him exposed. Aaron sensed the danger well before it arrived. During the festival, he moved among the crowds, his calm demeanor unnoticed by most. The assassins, cloaked and armed, slipped through shadows toward the central stage. Their weapons were strange and deadly, designed specifically to bypass alien defenses. A single strike could have thrown the ceremony into chaos. Yet the moment they stepped forward, the world seemed to resist them. A guard's weapon jammed inexplicably. A balcony railing shifted slightly, causing an attacker to hesitate. One by one, their movements faltered, their precise plan unraveling without warning. Aaron's eyes followed each step, his body still and relaxed, as though observing a game rather than a battlefield. Queen Lyra noticed the change immediately. Her eyes widened as she saw the attackers pause mid-step, frozen, their muscles locked in tension. No one could understand it. No one except Aaron. He approached silently. "Step back," he whispered. The voice was quiet, yet the room seemed to respond. The attackers collapsed to the ground, unconscious but unharmed. No one else could explain it. The festival continued, oblivious to the crisis that had nearly struck. Afterward, Queen Lyra demanded an explanation. Aaron's reply was simple, almost casual. "I did not need to fight them. They could not harm what they were meant to destroy." The queen's mind raced. "You are not just a human. You are something far beyond what I imagined. And yet you hold back." "Yes," he said. "True power is not shown in destruction. It is shown in restraint." The realization struck her deeply. For centuries, she had judged strength by weapons, armies, and aggression. Aaron taught her something new. The strongest did not need to display power. They existed beyond it, commanding respect through presence, precision, and understanding. Verk, meanwhile, was unaware of the failure. He believed his plan had been flawless. That ignorance made him dangerous. He accelerated his preparations, gathering more forces and moving closer to open rebellion. His arrogance blinded him to the quiet human who had already thwarted every attempt to destabilize the palace. In private, Queen Lyra and Aaron walked the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected in the waters below, creating an almost surreal light. She asked him, "How do you see everything? How do you know what will happen?" Aaron looked at the stars. "I do not see everything, but I can feel patterns. I can sense intentions." When danger approaches, it reveals itself in small ways. One must notice them. She studied him closely, a mix of fear and admiration in her gaze. "If humans are capable of this, what else is hidden?" Aaron smiled faintly. "Only what the galaxy needs to see when it is ready." At that moment, a messenger arrived with urgent news. Verk's forces had moved near the outer gates. Small battles had begun, skirmishes that threatened the stability of the capital. For the first time, Queen Lyra realized that the rebellion was not a distant threat. It was here and it was real. Aaron prepared calmly. No weapons were drawn, no alarms sounded. Yet the palace guards instinctively followed his lead, sensing authority beyond explanation. As Verk's forces approached, he moved through the corridors, unseen, unchallenged, yet entirely in control. The queen watched in awe. The human she had married, the one everyone believed weak, was about to face the greatest threat to her empire without raising a hand. And in that silence, she understood that her judgments, her assumptions, and even her power had been incomplete. The first clash would not be of armies but of understanding, and in that, Aaron was already victorious. The palace stood tense, the city held its breath, and the queen knew that nothing would ever be the same. The rebellion had begun, and the quiet human beside her would soon reveal just how strong he truly was. The morning sky over Areles was tinged with red as the first warning flares appeared on the horizon. Verk's forces had gathered, stronger and more numerous than anyone had anticipated. Word spread quickly through the palace. The rebellion was no longer a rumor, no longer a hidden plot. It was real, and it was coming to claim the capital. Queen Lyra stood at her balcony, silver eyes scanning the horizon. Her heart beat steadily, but her mind raced. For weeks, she had seen the subtle ways Aaron influenced the palace, prevented accidents, and neutralized threats without anyone noticing. Now, the stakes were higher. The empire itself was at risk. Aaron moved among the palace halls with quiet determination. Guards and servants instinctively cleared his path, sensing the authority he radiated without effort. He carried no weapon, yet every soldier instinctively trusted his judgment. The rebellion outside was organized, fierce, and relentless, but he did not panic. Calm filled the palace, though tension clung to every corner. Verk's forces struck first at the outer gates, expecting an easy victory. Their ships, weapons, and ground forces were numerous, and they believed the humans' presence would be irrelevant. Yet as the attack began, chaos erupted in ways no one understood. Weapons failed without cause. Ships stalled mid-flight. Automated defenses activated against the attackers alone, as if guided by an unseen hand. Queen Lyra watched from the palace walls. Her advisors were confused, some fearful, others angry. "Why are their weapons failing?" one demanded. "They should be destroying us," another shouted. Aaron appeared beside her, calm, composed, observing the unfolding chaos. "Because they underestimate what they face," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried authority that made the advisors step back. The battle outside escalated, yet no human nor Aurelian soldier fired a single shot at the enemy directly. Instead, small human ships arrived from Earth, tiny and seemingly fragile. They moved impossibly fast, slipping past enemy defenses and striking critical points with precision. Entire enemy fleets stalled, unsure how to respond. Alien commanders shouted orders, but the human ships had already altered the battlefield in ways the galaxy had never seen. Inside the palace, Aaron guided Queen Lyra through the halls, calmly coordinating palace defenses. He moved among soldiers, adjusting their positions, boosting their morale, and ensuring the safety of civilians. Every action he took was quiet, deliberate, and precise. The Queen realized that his true strength was not only physical or technological. It was in his ability to anticipate, control, and reshape events before they even occurred. Verk, watching from his command ship, grew frustrated. He had expected a conventional fight, a rebellion against an empire weakened by internal division. Instead, he faced a human and his allies who seemed to anticipate every move. His weapons failed, his plans collapsed, and his soldiers surrendered without understanding why. "Impossible," Verk hissed, his face pale. "This is not how it should be." Meanwhile, Queen Lyra observed Aaron calmly. She felt a mix of fear and awe. For centuries, her empire had measured strength through numbers, weapons, and political influence. Aaron had none of these in obvious ways, yet he controlled the outcome of the greatest battle she had ever witnessed without cruelty, without arrogance, and without visible effort. After the enemy forces were neutralized, the palace erupted in cautious celebration. Verk and his lieutenants were captured alive, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. They had assumed that their knowledge, their preparation, and their strength were enough. They had been wrong. Aaron turned to Queen Lyra. "This does not mean the empire is safe forever," he said. "It means that threats must be understood, not merely confronted." She nodded, her mind racing. "I see now. We judged too quickly. We assumed humans weak, fragile, but you changed everything." He smiled faintly. "Strength is often hidden. We do not show it unless it is needed." The aftermath of the battle reshaped the empire. The nobles who had mocked the marriage began to respect Aaron, some even feeling a cautious fear of his quiet authority. The citizens of the capital marveled at the efficiency and control displayed by the human who had arrived with no pomp, no weapons, and no apparent power. Queen Lyra convened her council. "We have witnessed what one human can achieve," she said. Let this be a lesson to all. Strength is not only in armies or fleets, it is in knowledge, control, and patience. It is in the ability to act decisively when necessary. Aaron stood beside her, listening, yet saying little. His presence alone commanded attention and respect. The queen realized that she had underestimated not only him, but her own people's capacity to see beyond appearances. Over the following weeks, the empire entered a new era. Rebellion attempts ceased, treaties were enforced more peacefully, and trade routes stabilized. Earth's presence, once considered minor, became a symbol of reliability and hidden strength. Queen Lyra often watched Aaron quietly, reflecting on how the galaxy had misjudged humanity for centuries. One evening, as the twin moons reflected on the palace waters, she asked him softly, "If humans are this strong, why do you hide it?" Aaron looked toward the stars. "Because strength without reason invites fear and war. The galaxy is not ready for the full measure of what we can do. We reveal only what is needed at the right moment." The queen nodded. She realized that the galaxy's future was changing, not through conquest but through wisdom and restraint. Humans had arrived not to dominate but to protect, to guide, and to teach what true power meant. In the palace gardens, the air was calm, yet the promise of future challenges lingered. Queen Lyra understood that this was only the beginning. Verk's defeat had shown the Empire what one human could do, but there was more to learn, more to prepare for. And with Aaron by her side, she felt a cautious hope that the Empire could endure, grow, and thrive. The quiet human who had once been underestimated now stood as a guardian, a teacher, and a force that reshaped the galaxy without violence, without cruelty, and without need for recognition. Queen Lyra finally understood. Strength was not always visible, but when revealed it could change everything. And as the stars of Areles glimmered in the night sky, the Empire slept with new understanding, and the human beside their queen remained the calm, unshakable center of it all. The palace of Areles glowed under the light of twin moons, calm and silent after the storm of rebellion. Queen Lyra walked through the halls, her silver eyes reflecting the soft illumination. For the first time since Aaron had arrived, she felt a sense of stability she had never known. The Empire had survived the greatest internal threat in decades, and it was because of him, the human she had once underestimated. Aaron moved beside her, quiet and composed as always. There was no display of strength, no pride, yet every action he took radiated authority. The palace staff and guards had grown accustomed to his presence, instinctively trusting his decisions. But even the queen, who knew him best, could not fully explain the extent of his power. It was as if he commanded the world not by force, but simply by being there. The aftermath of Verk's rebellion reshaped the empire. Nobles who had once mocked the marriage approached the queen with respect, some even with cautious humility. Earth's role became clearer, not as a minor ally, but as a partner that had quietly demonstrated its true capabilities. Ships from human fleets patrolled the borders, not for conquest, but as guardians, ready to intervene only when necessary. Queen Lyra convened a gathering of the Empire's council, inviting generals, diplomats, and advisors. The atmosphere was different this time. No whispers of doubt, no fear of weakness. They had seen what restraint, precision, and intelligence could achieve. She spoke with calm authority. "The Empire has learned an important lesson," she said. "Strength is not measured by weapons, numbers, or fear. It is measured by wisdom, patience, and the ability to act decisively when needed." Aaron stood beside her, listening silently. His presence alone commanded attention, his calm confidence inspiring trust. The council understood without question that he was not merely a human, but a force of order and insight that the galaxy had not seen before. In the weeks that followed, trade and diplomacy flourished. Alien worlds that had been wary of Areles now sought alliance. fascinated by the stories of the human who had changed the course of the empire without violence. Queen Lyra often walked the gardens at night, reflecting on the events that had reshaped her perception of power. One evening she approached Aaron as he observed the stars from a balcony. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "The empire, the nobles, even me. And yet I feel there is still more you could reveal." He smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the light of the moons. "Some truths are shown only when they are needed," he said. "Humanity does not seek to dominate but to guide and protect. The galaxy will learn in time, but it must be ready." Queen Lyra nodded, understanding finally what she had been seeing all along. It was not only strength that mattered, but restraint, clarity, and purpose. Humans had mastered these qualities, and in doing so, they had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of power. Peace settled over the empire, yet the queen knew it was not the end of challenges. New threats would arise, new plots would form, and new decisions would need to be made. But with Aaron by her side, she felt a certainty she had never known. Together, they could face whatever came, not through fear or domination, but through wisdom, guidance, and quiet strength. In the palace gardens, the twin moons reflected in the still waters. Queen Lyra looked at Aaron and finally spoke the question that had lingered in her mind since his arrival. "If humans are capable of so much, what else do you hide?" He looked at the horizon, his expression serene. "Only what the galaxy is ready to see. The rest will come in time." The queen smiled softly, realizing that the empire had entered a new era. The galaxy had been shown a new kind of strength, a strength born not from conquest, but from understanding, patience, and the courage to act only when necessary. As the stars of Areles shimmered above, the palace stood as a symbol of this new era. Queen Lyra walked beside Aaron, confident, inspired, and aware that the true measure of power had been revealed. Humanity had arrived not as a conqueror, but as a guide, a protector, and a quiet force that would shape the galaxy for generations to come. And in that quiet night, with peace restored and the future full of promise, the human beside the queen remained the unshakable center of it all, calm, wise, and stronger than any star in the sky.